Good evening, everybody. Welcome to a brand new episode of Seeking Advice Podcast. I am your host, of course. I am Dale. I am here today, and I'm grateful that I'm here today. I'm grateful I'm here every single day of my life because you know what? I have a lot of things to be grateful for. And I tell you, as many people know, the month of June is Mental Health Awareness Month. Some call it Men's Mental Awareness Month. But overall, I'm just looking at this perspective is that we really truly need to break the perspective of talking about your mental health, dealing with your mental health. And as you can see in the ticker below, I have posted the Canadian and U.S. Crisis hotline. It's three simple digits. You can either text it, call it, or you can go to 888. I think it's .com or .ca wherever you're living. But this is your helpline. And folks, if you're struggling, you're dealing with this, please reach out. Don't You are not alone in this fight. There is many people who deal with us on a personal basis. And I am one of those people that have been dealing with this for several years. The earliest I can recall is, I guess, probably shortly. No, actually, it was, I can't even remember the year that it happened, but I'll tell you the frame of mind I was in and what I was going through at the time. And, I'm here to be raw and I'm going to be honest and I'm going to be as open as I expect everybody who comes on this show. I'm not going to hold back. I'm not going to make it sweet. I'm not going to sugarcoat it because it is it's a very terrible thing road to go down. It is difficult. I will tell everybody the first time that I've ever tried to commit suicide. Uh, I can't remember the year, but I can definitely remember the situation. I was young and in love, and she was my world. And I found out that she cheated on me and that she didn't really even care about me. And it kind of really devastated me at that time. And I was working in a public building when this all went down, and I was so distraught and so out of it that a lot of it is a real blank to me. But through the years, when I first went through the therapy and everything, talking to doctors and psychiatrists and stuff like that, um, it, and kind of going through everything. So what had happened that day, as I explained, young and in love, and uh, found out some pretty nasty things, and then just to find out that somebody just basically didn't care for you, that they were just using you the whole time. It really devastated me. And those people that know me personally know that I'm a very sensitive person. I I've always been a people pleaser. I've always been that person that was always there for everybody. But this particular thing, oh, I was so out of it and so distraught that I absolutely lost all sense of reality and control. And my only thought was to die. And so the place that I was working at that time, I was on the midnight shift, so there was basically nobody in the building. And my thought was just to go up to the roof and jump off. And a good friend of mine who I worked with was there, and he saw my condition, and he basically had to pin me against the wall. And at the same time, he called my mother and told her what was happening, and they showed up. Just give me a second here. They showed up and they brought me, you know, seeing seeing my mother and my stepdad kind of calmed me down a bit. But all I kept saying is that I just wanted to die. And it was so I was brought to the hospital, admitted to the hospital so that I could, so they knew I wouldn't hurt myself. And that was the beginning of my, I guess, my real mental health struggles in life. Uh, from that, that's where I was diagnosed as uh, suffering from depression and anxiety. Uh, so after my hospital stay, I just, I was really a loner after that point. I really didn't see too much or didn't want to be around people. Um, so thanks, Deb and RJ. I love you guys too. So yeah, that's been my long journey. Uh, well over 30 years of trying to figure this out, trying to live day by day, just trying to be a decent human being. Uh, I know I'm not perfect. I know I'm just a human. I've made some bad mistakes in my life, but I am human. So, but here we are. We're talking about it. We are breaking the stigma of what mental health is to each and one of us, and we all suffer from it. We all might have depression, but we all suffer from depression in different ways. So, uh, I can throughout the show, I will talk about what worked for me, what didn't work for me, but I don't expect people to do what I did. I mean, I am me. I always think of myself as a little bit different. Um, but I got an amazing lady who's backstage. She's gonna come on. She's just let me pull it back up again. Sorry. Uh, so she is a behaviorist with over 25 years experience in mental health, including crisis intervention and neuropsychology. So I'm going to let her come on in just a bit and to discuss, her side of things and help us shed some light on everything that's been going on and why mental health awareness is such a big deal. So just before I bring her out, I was doing a little bit of research for the show. And a lot of people who know me, I don't do research too well because I like to read things, I like to know things, but with years of experience, uh, and it's not the experience that I truly wanted either. Uh, just because of what the roads that I've been down to understanding what mental health truly is. So, I mean, a lot of the statistics I'm going to throw out here right now are just statistics for Canada. My guest, maybe a little bit later on, can really reflect on the American side of the statistics. But, you know, in deaths alone, there was over 4,400 deaths in Canada alone, and that number is doesn't seem like a lot when you think about 365 days in a year, but that's on average of 13 deaths a day that people take their life in one way or another. And the most alarming part of this statistic is men are 3 times more likely to commit suicide than a woman. And why is that? Because I, now this is my perspective. Men are held in a different light. We're supposed to be stronger. We're supposed to be more with it. We're supposed to have our shit together. We're not supposed to have problems. We're not supposed to have mental breakdowns. We're supposed to be the provider. We're supposed to be the strong ones. But that's furthest from the truth. Men can suffer from this just as much as anybody else. Uh, so, with all those statistics out there, that makes men 75% of the suicide death rates in Canada. I don't know if that's the same as the United States. It could be a higher number because they have a much bigger population. 'Cause you got to realize we only have 40 million people in Canada, and statistically, United States have over 390 million people. So, like I said, statistics are going to be a lot higher. Um, so think about that. 75% of all suicides are men. And statistically speaking, men use more violent ways to die than women. And we're going to talk about that with my guest in a little bit. But I'm just going to just go off a little bit of who's at risk of suicide. Um, Men who consume alcohol, particularly high doses of alcohol, whether accurately, heavily, or over a long term, can lead to worsening deceptive, depressive symptoms and reduce fear in inhabitations and result in more serious suicide attempts. Not only are men likely to be diagnosed with alcohol use disorder than women, but they are more likely in a higher blood alcohol level at the time of the death by suicide. So, that's another thing. People who suffer from mental illness are usually covering it up with a substance abuse as well. It might be alcohol, it might be drugs, it might be other things. We just don't know truly. Um, anybody that has really bad habits, it's usually a sign of something else. They're covering up for something else. So, just one more thing before I bring up my guests. It says men who are experience stigmas, social exclusions, or exposure to trauma and abuse and violence. Uh, this would include homophobia, discrimination, sexual and physical abuse, historically and colonially violence. So, you know, you know, in that description, yes, men can be sexually and physically abused too. It's not just a female or a child thing. Men can deal with this too, and that is another thing that I had to deal with in my life was being mentally abused by people I was in relationships with. So, I mean, doing all this reading, like a lot of it I've known from all the research that I've done before and trying to diagnose what is happening because talking to a doctor, talking to therapists, they're all good. There are ways and they give you tools to help you. But for me, it wasn't enough. I needed to know more. I needed to go down rabbit holes. I needed to figure out why. And even nowadays, what are my triggers? Like, what triggers me when I see things or hear things that triggers my depression or my anxiety. Now, being in large crowds amps up my anxiety, and people go, "Well, that's funny because you like to go to all these conventions and meet people and do public speaking." Yes, and my anxiety is rampant that whole time. I am doing things that will help my anxiety calm down so that I can enjoy talking about what I enjoy talking about, and that is the paranormal and mental health awareness and positivity and stuff like that. But, people are out in public every day and, we see it all the time. Just be kind to one another because you don't know what somebody is dealing with. And that is exactly it. You don't know. Maybe your smile, maybe your hi, maybe your hello, maybe I hope you have a great day will change somebody's mood for that day. And who knows? Maybe that person was thinking about suicide, but because you were being kind to them, maybe it gave them a little bit of hope. But right now, so yeah, I mean, I'm going to talk about more of my stories, more of my mental health going down this rabbit hole. If anybody that's watching the show would like to pop on, just let me know. I can send you a link right away. Um, but in the meantime, right now, I'm going to bring out this wonderful lady. She is also in the paranormal, but I'm so glad that she is here talking and giving her point of view. Like 25 years of experience is a lot and probably can really help a lot of people. So right now, help me welcome out my guest at this time, Denise. Welcome.
Hello.
How you doing today? Thank you so much for coming on and talking about bringing awareness to Mental Health Month and bringing aware to people, the millions of people who suffer from this on a daily and hourly basis. And, just creating the show, I think about it, and it's sad to really think about, but by the end of this show, at least one person's going to have committed suicide.
hmm It's sad, but it's shows like this, talks like this are so necessary. It's one of the only huge things that can stop, can act as intervention. The more we talk about it, the more the stigma goes away.
Yes, and that's what really needs to be pushed. The narrative nowadays has to be pushed that people just need to talk about it and stop being ashamed of suffering from mental illness. There's nothing truly wrong with you with unless you're not talking about it. That's what we have to do. We have to talk about it. We have to bring these people to a non-judgmental area where talking about it they'll feel comfortable. And if that's talking to a doctor or a psychologist, it doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't make anything wrong with you. I mean, for people who don't know, mental illness is a chemical imbalance in the brain.
Absolutely.
It is, so these are where it comes from. So it's the medications that are out there, they help you kind of balance that out. But also, like I said, talking about it really helps.
hmm
And not just with doctors, you got to rely on people that you're close to. My best friend in the world, Michael John. I mean, I could be having the most crappiest day, but I know he's somebody I can talk to because he's not going to judge me or say, oh, just suck it up and get on with your life because he's been there too. But at the same time, we're all around somebody we can confide in. Go talk to a priest, go talk to whoever, but just like I said, I cannot stress enough. We need to talk about it when you're feeling vulnerable at the moment instead of thinking the dark side.
So, in my intro, you had mentioned the years that I've had, and it's a lot.
Yeah.
Probably about 25. I bring that up because even through those 25 years, when I look back on treatment, on how we approached it, it changed so dramatically.
Oh, yeah.
When I first started, it was mental health system was more reactive.
Right.
You even in therapies and stuff, you didn't really talk about the root of the problem. You talked about the here and now.
Right.
It's Tuesday, you're in crisis. What are you going to do today to feel better?
Right.
But then we kind of realized we were leaving people hanging without a safety net. They would come into the system, get the rest for a couple days, and it was okay. Here's some meds. You're feeling better. Bye. Good luck. And
Right.
poof. I started getting into the neuropsychology because of that approach. I wasn't happy with the here and now. What made this happen? What's going on in the brain? What's going on in the body? And fortunately for me, the system was changing as well with that medical model, with that medical approach.
Right.
And like I always like to stress to people, when your brain is not producing the right amounts of dopamine, serotonin, your neuroreceptors aren't firing, there is no amount of sunshine and willpower that's going to make that difference without a holistic approach. Um, it's, we would never dream of telling a cancer patient, well, if you just willed yourself to feel better, these cells would just dissolve. And, I
Right.
don't understand why we tell people with bona fide chemical imbalance, well, if you just took a shower, you'd feel better. You know, took that walk. And I'm not saying don't do it,
Right.
by means, attack at all angles, but to put the onus on someone's morality, someone's willpower, someone's mood, when there is an actual biochemical medical thing going on in their body, that's just so terrible of us as a society. We have to do it holistically.
Right. So maybe you can shed a little bit of light on this with your experience and your background. I mean, people think this is a low income type of situation that only people that live in a lower income life suffer from a lot of mental illness and depression and suicide, when in reality, we look around us and some of the most beloved people that we see on our TV screens or listen to our radios who's created music, like Robin Williams, a man who brought laughter to the world. Nobody realized he suffered from mental illness until he committed suicide.
Oh, absolutely.
And I mean, we got Chester Bennington, lead singer of Linkin Park. I mean, it's you would think these people would have all everything together. Look at them; they're rich, they're famous. They have why are they dealing with mental illness? Because look, they have everything. What do they have to what do they have to be depressed about? But that's just it. It's not it's not who you are. It's not what you have going on around you. It's what's going on inside you. And
Absolutely.
the cry, like if anybody's listened to a Linkin Park album and see the songs that Chester wrote all those years, I mean, his songs are a cry about needing help in the mental health. And and with a lot of people will tell you, like, give you signs and stuff like that that they need help. But other people just choose not to read those signs or just ignore those signs altogether. Um, so, with your background and your knowledge of everything, what would you say is the biggest? Where do you see a lot of people that end up suffering from mental illness, depression, anxiety? where walks of life would you say you see the most come from?
Overwhelmingly, it is the helping professions where we see the highest demographic. Your enlisted people, your EMTs, your doctors, your social workers. They might mask it better. They might present themselves a little bit better out in public, but those are overwhelmingly the hard statistics, the top tier of people with mental illness.
Wow. And I mean, we saw a lot of that after the pandemic. A lot of doctors, a lot of nurses, a lot of uh, first responders. Like, how many of these people committed suicide
Hmm.
because of the pressure they were under, the things that they had to see each and every day, being segregated from families because, like, I don't know about the United States, but a lot of hospitals here in Canada were renting out hotels to put nurses and
Yeah.
doctors in so
So,
that they didn't have to go home and potentially
yeah.
spread this disease to their families. And like, people were going months without seeing their families. And, you know,
And there's
it,
situations echoed what you had said earlier, too, where, men are expected to be strong, expected not to show emotion, the stalwart,
right,
if you will. These professions are also into those categories.
yeah,
You can't have a doctor breaking down and crying in the middle of a surgery. You
no,
know,
no,
don't
it,
hurt in the back of an ambulance.
yeah, yeah, and I mean, even with police officers and firefighters, like the stuff these guys see, men and women see on a daily basis, like they have to go clean up suicides. They have to go. They're the ones who have to go tell these families that your loved one took their life.
Yep.
And I mean, that's got to be hard.
Yeah. And again, there's that fear. There's that, if I tell someone this, will they judge me as incompetent in my job?
Right,
Are they going to see me as less than? And I think that applies to a lot of men in particular. And unfortunately, in the United States, a lot of the men here, that when they enter the mental health, help system, they're afraid of that. Are they going to lose? They're more likely to lose employment, to lose visitation or custody of children,
right,
their homes, than women are.
right.
That's an actual statistic.
And that's crazy to think about.
Eh, So just
uh,
if we had said that about any other population, people would be, oh my goodness, that's discrimination. How could they possibly do that?
right.
But it's a fact and it happens.
Now, now, I know we were talking a little bit about stage, and I did mention this a little bit. Maybe you can elaborate on it more. Why? But men are more likely to commit suicide dangerously more than any other culture, like women, children, whatever else. Could you possibly shed a little bit of light on that? Like, why would you think that would be?
So there's actually a couple theories about that. The first one is their access to the more violent things. And again, I'm talking broad, stereotypically,
Right.
more have guns, more men have access to guns in the United States.
Yeah.
More men tend to be a little bit more knowledgeable than how a gun works. I've interviewed several women in the past who they didn't attempt, but they mentioned that at some point or another that they had thought, well, gee, I should use a gun. And what stopped them was their inexperience with it. They were
Right.
afraid of the actual firing. They were afraid to load, because people make mistakes and what's the outcome going to be?
Right.
Another theory is hormonal, the testosterone. Men and women approach things in every walks of daily life differently.
right,
Women tend to plan out elaborate scenes. A woman wants to set the scene, set the pace of her death. Men make that decision right then and there. That testosterone floods the brain and they act out.
right,
And again, these are theories.
right.
Obviously they've interviewed
Yeah,
survived autopsy, chemicals and stuff in the brains.
right. And the one statistic I was reading there, that most men who commit suicide have high levels of alcohol in their system
Hmm.
when they are found, and that's pretty alarming. And I can kind of relate to this because I know after a day, I don't really drink that heavily anymore, but I remember like a lot of my really dark thoughts was came to me after drinking a lot of
Yeah.
alcohol, and that's when you start feeling more lonely and you feel more like, well, this world doesn't need me type of deal.
Yeah.
So that's and where women, like you said, they like to set the scene. They like to, you know, I don't want to use the word pretty it up, but that's what they're doing, and they're making it,
Yep. That's
so I think they're making it easier on the people that are going to find them. Where if a guy shoots himself, well, they know it's going to be a mess,
yeah.
So, um, but
So
it's just crazy to think about how two different like sexes really think about it when they're in that situation, and it's just mind blowing to think about. Well, men think about let's do it the harsh way, and women are like, I just want to go to bed and sleep and never wake up
yeah.
again.
But that's another thing though that a lot of people have said. Yes, women think about it, orchestrate it,
Yeah,
plan. Men tend not to. Men are in that moment. They're not thinking, well, gee, who's going to clean up the mess?
right, right,
Gee, oh, what's my mom going to think? Men are,
right,
poof, the decision's made.
right,
They're jumping. You can't backpedal a jump.
right,
And I don't mean to sound so harsh and callous, but you can't. A woman can swallow pills and make herself vomit.
right,
Woman can set out to do an elaborate scene and stop midway. Men tend to make the irreversible decisions.
right,
And another thing, when I had thought of when you had mentioned the alcohol, overwhelmingly men go undiagnosed.
yeah,
So they drink and they turn to drugs and other excessives as a form of self medication.
right, yeah, no, and that is a true story. If you go to a lot of these alcohol and drug addiction places, that when they become clean and sober, they can admit that it's because I was feeling like depression or sad, or I mean, or just trying to cover something up that they're going through. But when they would sober up, they realize it's still there. So let's just keep drinking or taking the
Right.
drug, and hopefully it'll all go away. Uh, and it's really sad to think about, like, you know, I mean, I come from a family of alcoholics, and I know that unfortunately some of them never got sober to long enough to admit anything. Where my dad did, but his alcoholism was for a totally different reason. And people are also ashamed of who they are. Like, if you're gay or lesbian, or you're you're not the perfect person. You don't look like Mr. Olympia, or you don't look like Miss Universe at a pageant. The stigma of people's body type plays a role into people's mental health.
Oh, absolutely.
or what you believe in also. I mean, if you believe in a God, well, you know, how dare you, or who you like and stuff like that.
Yep. And it
So
does.
it's just crazy on what people, when they deal with mental illness, or how it starts affecting them, because it's all in us, but it's just like you said, it's the body's producing enough of everything that we're able not to think that way. Just like we all have cancer inside of us, but all of our white blood cells keep fighting it off so that it doesn't become active.
Hmm.
Um,
And it does. It goes. I know it keeps like cycling back and back, but again, the root of it is, to get rid of the stigma. The more you talk, and
Absolutely.
that was another way I see therapies have changed over the years, where before it was, people were expected to come into these sessions knowing everything already. No one, none of us comes in and says, "Well, tell me why do you do this? What's your deepest, darkest fear? What are your darkest thoughts?" Who the hell is going to sit down and be like, "Well, I thought about it yesterday and here it is. This is what's wrong with me."
Right.
People need to understand it is an ongoing process. It could be years long, it could be lifelong. We all have these dark, we wouldn't be human if we didn't have these dark thoughts, if we didn't have emotion. It's how we deal with it that we need to address.
And that's exactly it. We are all humans. We are built with emotions. We are built with compassion, and people who can't necessarily express that because of their status in society,
Mm,
as a cop, a fireman, a doctor, a nurse, somebody who's supposed to be brave, a soldier that is on the front lines fighting for our freedoms and stuff like that. I mean, you just
lives
they
we have.
should be able to come back and talk about that. And I see more of that. I've had people on this show, people who are first responders and stuff like that, and say those industries are changing. They are offering more support to their workers,
Yeah.
that, you know, if you are feeling down, please go talk to this person, and let it be known, and even talk amongst your peers,
Hmm.
because who would know more about what you're going through than your own peers?
Exactly. And
Doctors understand doctors, nurses
yep.
understand nurses, policemen, you know, these people need to come together and support each other. And it's like a team. We're all there, we're all the same goal, we're all looking to get to the finish line at the end of the day. And if one of your workers or your teammates fall, everybody go pick them up and help them across the
Yep.
line.
Yep. I
Just
kind
as
of pulled when you said that because it's what we call morgue humor. There are days when know, I hate my job. I hate so and so.
right,
I'm XYZ right now. And, we've come to that point where we can feel safe saying things like that versus everything has to be fine. Everything has to be presentable.
right. Yeah, and I mean, people on the front lines, people everyday people should have somebody, or people around them that they can always return to, a
Mm,
best friend, even parents. And I know, as a parent myself, I encourage my kids, if anything's ever bothering you, I don't care what time of a day it is, y- y- call me. I would rather hear your voice at 2 a.m. because you're feeling crappy right now than
yep.
it is to hear that you've even attempted something like this.
Exactly. Exactly.
And it's just, we need more of that. And there's always a famous quote that goes around in the mental health uh, s- system is, I would rather bear the weight of your tears on my shoulder than the weight of your casket.
Yes. Yep.
And I often say that a lot to people who come up to me and who don't know me, but I say, you know what? If you ever need to talk, just DM me or here's my phone number. Call me, text me because I may not personally know you, but you know what? I sit here. I have a hard time watching the news, but through social media and everything, when I hear anybody commit suicide, I always think like, why didn't that person feel they had somebody to talk to?
Hmm.
And to me, it's like, I bet you everybody around that person goes now saying, "Oh, I wish they would have talked to me." Maybe that person was trying to talk to you, but you were just kept ignoring them.
I have mixed emotions with that, only because a lot of times your judgment is so clouded.
Yeah,
And every time, everything's going to be different. I would hate for someone to bear that weight, to hurt themselves because they thought they missed a cue, that
right.
they missed a step.
Yeah,
um and it could very well be true,
yeah.
but we need to support our survivors as well, and to stop grasping at the whys and just reflect on going forward.
I would agree with you 100% on that. Like anybody uh, who has had somebody they're very close to commit suicide, never think that it's because of you, because you know what? That plan was already in motion. Because you might have not answered the phone at that moment, you weren't around or whatnot. It's not it's not 100% your fault. It. You just have to kind of just talk about it yourself
Mm-hmm.
because you could be you that. I mean, when people talk about Chester Bennington, it was he was really emotional over a death of his very closest friend. So, when you think about stuff like that, and then he commits suicide, I can't remember. It was a few weeks later, a month later, I can't remember. But, do you sit back and think, was he like that? Did he think he wasn't there for that friend? And he took that all on himself. And then to a point, like he suffered from mental illness for many years. But was that the straw that broke the camel's back that he thought he wasn't there for somebody and that's why they died at the same time? And no, we don't want a chain reaction here. We don't want people feeling the burden of, oh, just because I didn't answer that's why this for no.
And
You
it
don't know what their mental state was when they were doing it. Maybe they were just calling to say hello one last time. I don't know.
I
And I can
well,
detest on. I can tell you a story right after you tell us what you're going to say.
I just wanted to mention, I've lost people as a clinician, but I've also lost family and loved ones as friend, loved one, family. And each one had parallels, but you would get the ones that were picture perfect, that they had a wide support group, that, textbook wise and popular opinion wise, every step was covered. And the minute they got a chance, the minute that window of opportunity opened, they were gone.
Right.
Other ones I can reflect back and say, well, gee, they missed an appointment. Or,
Right.
mentioned that she wasn't taking her meds anymore. Should we had pushed harder?
Right.
And that's where you cross that fine line into their autonomy, into their life, because we can't live for other people. As
Right.
much as we care for them, as much as we want to have them with us forever, we we are committing a slower suicide by holding on to people too tight. There's
Right.
a thing called dignity of failure. We have to let them live.
Yeah, I mean that is so true. And even Deb here, typically when somebody is at the point that they decide they are going to commit suicide, nobody can truly stop them.
Absolutely.
Um, yeah, I mean, and so I will. I've told this story in many of my talks because it is the last time I really was on that path of going to commit suicide. Uh, I really wanted to go say goodbye to a lot of people I really loved and care about deeply. So I was on my way up to the Michigan Paracon up in Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan. Uh, I was really in a dark hole for like every day I woke up was the last day on earth. Um, I just kept thinking that every day was my last day. The end of the day would come, and I would keep talking myself out of it, which was a good thing. But then I thought, you know what? I'm going to say goodbye to my friends, and they won't even know it. I was headed up to Michigan. A really good friend of mine, uh, Exie, wasn't going to the Paracon that year, but she wanted to have lunch. So I said, sure, I'll meet you for lunch. So I drove up, I met her. I got there a little bit early, so did she. So I was sitting in her car and I remember this because this was the moment my whole life changed. I sat in her car and the typical answer for me when anybody ever asked me how I was feeling was I'm fine, which is the common answer. Uh, but she would look at me and she would just ask me again. She'd be like, so how are you doing? And I would once again repeat that I was fine. And this is where I'd say to tell people that it's the paranormal that saved my life. She then looked me dead in my face and says, I know what's going on. Your dad has been hounding me from the other side. She gave me the message that he sent for her to give me. And that was the moment that I truly realized I had a lot of living to do. And that was the last day I ever thought about taking my life. I often think if I would have been a statistic like you talked about, how men are impulsive,
Mm-hmm.
just and went and did it, I wouldn't be here. But no, I wanted to say goodbye in my own way. But I did it, and I'm very grateful that I did.
It's interesting the parallels, but the differences between your attempts. How with youth, in the first time around experiencing those raw emotions, you were thinking quicker. But then with age and life experience came the I want to say goodbye first. That's a beautiful thing. Those are beautiful stories.
But yeah, it's the journey has gotten easier. the dealing with the mental health and the depression and the anxiety. They're there every day. There's days I don't even want to get out of bed anymore.
Yep.
I just want to stay in my room, hide like a mushroom, and not function.
Yep. And
But I force
unfortunately,
myself every day to do that. And the gym has helped me to do that. And that's thanks to my brothers, Tim Shaw, Frank Kupka, and Michael John. They were all guys who were working out. And even Dustin Perry, who always said, go to the gym, not just because you want to get in health or take care of yourself, but it's good for your mental health.
yep.
And it is so true that going to the gym has been such a help on my mental health that it truly does work. And I
Tim
I've
is
learned to
my
do things.
weight loss and good recipe guru.
Yeah, he is truly
He's
amazing.
always
I love that man to death. Him, like I said, him and Frank and Mike. But yeah, Tim, yeah, just he is a true inspiration to a lot of people. Just getting her done and showing up, and that's the one thing I've learned about those guys. Um,
and it,
is
with Tim, I love and appreciate that he's another one. He's real with it. He'll post he's got aches and pains.
yeah,
He'll post stuff like, this ain't easy. I dragged myself in today, but I'm glad I did it. Versus the standard online, well, if I can do it, anyone can, or only posting the polished parts.
right. And that's good. I'm so happy that RJ is working out and taking, and it's not just about a whole like getting fit and stuff. That's great, but it's physically being able to distract yourself. And I use going to the gym as a distraction.
And it gives yourself accountability to,
Right.
nope, I made this commitment. I'm going to the gym. I'm not going to lay in bed all day.
Right. Yeah. And if I'm not at the gym, I'm doing a 3 mile walk a day. So, I mean, it's either or for me. So, um, but yeah, I'm truly blessed that I've got amazing people around me, and I'm blessed that like people like Deb and RJ that are here, and Rhonda who's watching, and several others who are. My screen doesn't show me everybody who's watching, but it's amazing how the paranormal community truly saved my life in this instant. When I was in my darkest, uh, I think we've got a question for you. It says, Denise, do you think that working out is also good for the soul?
Oh, absolutely. I don't look it, but I get my walks in. you know, Clears your mind. Just floods yourself with serotonin, and it's to me, it's also a way of grounding. You talk about the soul.
Right.
People talk about different ways of grounding, different ways of building up protection around you. For building up your aura. Exercise is a wonderful way to do that.
Yeah, and like I said, it's there's many ways to get a hobby, and I mean, I when I talk to a lot of people who thank you, that's my mindset too. I needed to hear it from you.
Oh,
Um, I tell people who suffer from mental illness that have opened up to me, find something you're passionate about and use that as a distraction on days that you are feeling down, you're not feeling yourself. You know, um, I know we've done a lot of shows on how mental health and the paranormal and how going into haunted buildings can affect your mental illness.
mm-hmm.
but I am so grateful that the people who I'm very close to in this field and in my life personally, I am truly appreciate that they're always there. They're always checking. We're all checking in on one another, and that's the one thing that I've learned to do. And I'm very bad about it. I apologize to my friends all the time because there's sometimes I'll go days and weeks or without talking to them, but they always know that I'm thinking about them on a daily basis. Uh, but also know that my phone and my communication is also open to them 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Uh, and anybody who's out there watching this show now, watching it later, listening to it on the XL network, anytime anybody ever wants to reach out to me, please find me on Facebook, Dale Quigley. Go to Seeking Vibes Podcasts page, reach out to me, or over on the Paranormal Voice page. I am so easy to find. Please reach out to me. I don't care if we're complete strangers. I will listen to you at 3 o'clock in the morning because if I find out somewhere through the grapevine that somebody committed suicide because they felt alone, that, like I said, I am there for people 24 hours a day. I know what it's like. I don't want people to know that they are being listened to. They do have a voice. And if you are suffering at this moment, please, the number's right there. 3 easy digits, 988. You can text it, you can call it. Somebody's going to be there. Somebody will help you. Somebody will talk to you. Somebody will get you in touch with people in your area. That is a that is Canadian and US wide. That is not just local to Michigan and Ontario. That is all over the United States and all over Canada. So please use that number. If you're feeling that vulnerable, reach out, talk to somebody, and just you matter. And that's all there is to it. That you do matter. Tomorrow does need you. Any way that resonates with you, just reach out. Don't feel you're alone because you're not. There's millions of people out there that suffer from it and are dealing with it on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, the hour has been tremendous. Denise, before I let you go, is there anything else you would like to say about anything we've talked about? Anything that you would like to forward to anybody out there who's suffering at this moment?
Just to kind of echo what you said, reach out. People get it. There's a thing called the sociological imagination, and it's how things get done in our lives. If I have a problem with something, bet your ass 1,000 other people have it. We just haven't said anything about it. That's how bus transportation started. Mildred in a small town needed a ride to work. So did 5 other people. Denise was struggling with being a new mom and feeling overwhelmed. Well, so did 50 other people. And when
Right.
people started talking about it, that's where your support came in. People get it. People will, half the time when you reach out and say that, the person that you're talking to, they're not judging you. Inside, they're saying, whew, okay, I thought I was the only one that thought that.
Right. Right.
And it's amazing what we find when we do open ourselves to others and to sharing and, get into each other's energy.
Well, I thank you for coming on today, talking about our mental health
I
awareness.
having me.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much. And if you ever need to talk, just know my line is open. You can reach out to me anytime. I will be more than happy to listen to you
I appreciate
because I would rather listen to you living than I would rather listen to you on the other side.
it. Exactly.
Not
Next
that I have anything against
time,
the other side. It is my passion. It is my love. But so are the people of this world. Everybody, Thank you for listening. Thank you for my emotional breakdowns. This is me being raw. This is a part that people don't get to see. They get to see the Dale that's out there acting like the world is great and life is perfect.
But
But
that
just to know
are
it is not.
the raw, real, and it's a beautiful thing.
Absolutely. And I'm not ashamed. I'm okay with this. And this is why I hope that more and more people will open up and come together.
You know,
So
I
everybody,
tell people if
what
you weren't meant to cry, you wouldn't have tear ducts, dear.
this is true. This is true. Very true. But so once again, thank you, Denise.
Thank
Thank you so
you.
much for coming aboard. I appreciate you. Keep doing the work that you're doing and keep up the support. Like I said, anybody out there, if you're feeling down, you're feeling alone, three simple digits, 988, call the line, get the help, talk to somebody. You are very well worth it. And that's going to do it for me. Another show coming your way next week. We're going to continue on this journey of Mental Health Month. We are going to talk more and more about it. I'm going to conjure up some more great guests, more people who have dealt with in the field. In the meantime, I want to say thank you to everybody. And if anybody ever needs anything, know that I'm here. In the meantime, you are important. I hope to see you all again next week. Thank you
All
so
right.
much. Everybody, have a good night.
Night.